welcome you watching Global Lens on News9 Live with me, Neha Khanna. As always, we have a packed show for you. Let's get started. It's been almost 2 weeks since the general elections that threw up a hung verdict, and after intense negotiations over power sharing, it seems Pakistan may finally get a government. The Pakistan Muslim League-Nawaz or PML-N and the Pakistan People's Party or the PPP announced late Tuesday night that they have reached an agreement to form a coalition government. PPP chairman Bilawal Bhutto-Zardari announced that PML-N President Shehbaz Sharif is set to return as Prime Minister, while PPP co-chairman Zardari is slated to become the country's president once again. Bilawal said the PPP and the PML-N have achieved the required numbers and now we are in a position to form the government. He added that former Prime Minister Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf or PTI backed candidates and the Sunni Ittihad Council or SIC had failed to achieve a simple majority in parliament to form the government at the centre. Bilawal said he now hoped that the news of the political alliance would lead to a positive market response in the cash-strapped country that's been reeling under a massive economic crisis and political instability. Independent candidates, a majority backed by Imran Khan's party, won 93 seats in the National Assembly. Now, Prime Minister-to-be Shehbaz Sharif said his party, the PML-N, now had the required numbers with the PPP to be in a position to form the next government. He thanked the leadership of the two parties for the positive conclusion to the protracted talks. Now, the PML-N won 75 seats, while the PPP came third with 54 seats. The MQM has also agreed to support them with their 17 seats. To form a government, a party must win 133 out of 265 contested seats in the 266-member National Assembly. Meanwhile, in a post on X, formerly Twitter, the PTI hit out at the newly cemented alliance, calling the two political parties mandate thieves. Shehbaz Sharif, who was Prime Minister of Pakistan from 2022 to 23, also said that the journey ahead for the new government would not be an easy one, but fraught with many difficulties and obstacles. He asserted that the coalition alliance would tackle those challenges together. PPP co-chairperson Zardari, who was president from 2008 to 2013, has said the struggle of the political alliance bidding to make the next government is for the sake of the country and the future generations of Pakistan. The 8th February general elections have been highly controversial, with several serious allegations of widespread rigging to alter the results. Imran Khan's sister, Alima Khan, said the PTI chief has termed the 8th February elections mother of all rigging. The question is, how long will such a shaky coalition government last? Is Imran Khan right in calling it a stolen mandate? And can this government pull Pakistan out of its economic and political morass?
I can share with you
that the Pakistan People's Party and the Muslim League-Nawaz have enough numbers now, and God willing, we will be able to work on forming a government. With the help of Allah, we are now in a position to form a government. We are going to form a government. Shehbaz Sharif will once again become the Prime Minister of the country very soon. We and the entire nation are praying that this government should be successful and that we should be able to resolve all our internal issues, our foreign issues, and the economic problems of every Pakistani with the help of Allah.
All right. So, how soon will this government be sworn in and what can be expected next? To understand that, let's now go across to our panelists. Joining me on Global Lens once again is Zulkarnain Tahir, senior Pakistani journalist joining us from Lahore. We'll be joined in a moment by Ambassador Yogesh Gupta, former Indian diplomat. We also have with us Professor Sanjay Bharadwaj, from the School of International Studies at the Jawaharlal Nehru University. Gentlemen, a warm welcome to all of you. Zulkarnain, let me start with you. Thanks so much for joining me once again on Global Lens and sharing your perspective with us. There was this late night press conference where Bilawal and Shehbaz Sharif jointly announced that an alliance has finally been forged, a power sharing formula has been arrived at, and that Pakistan is finally going to get a government 2 weeks after that general election that threw up a hung verdict. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of how this alliance is going to function, the biggest question, of course, is how soon can the next government be sworn in?
Yes, it is likely to be early next month because the session would be called by the president, and then there'll be election of the speaker, and after that, the prime minister's election would be there. So we're going to have it early next month, the next government.
It's going to be early next month. Well, at least, the wait for the people of Pakistan is over to some extent. They now know that a coalition is in place. But again, the question that everyone is asking, Zulkarnain, is this shaky coalition going to last? The fact that it took them 2 weeks to even arrive at such an arrangement, to think that many have seen the election result as a humiliation for the Pakistan army that had actually handpicked Shehbaz Sharif to be the next Prime Minister. But such was the situation that Nawaz probably thought that he and his party simply did not have the mandate, and therefore he decided that his brother should take over as Prime Minister instead. And then you have Imran Khan and his party who are calling it a stolen mandate. How do the people of Pakistan look at this entire arrangement?
Yeah, you see, as said, whether it would be a shaky government or the powerful one, you see, in Pakistan, all depending upon how the government's relation goes with the military establishment. We have seen in the past that the government with two-third majority, if not enjoying the support or blessing of the military establishment, things go worse in days, if not months. Same here we see a simple situation here at the moment, like the establishment giving its umbrella to the PML-N led government, and rather it was the word around that the alliance cobbled up by the establishment, and People's Party PPP was told its role if is not willing to join the government in terms of taking portfolios in the cabinet. Well, never mind, at least support the PML-N setup so that it can function properly, and of course handle the threat of the Imran Khan and his party. So the first challenge, I don't see it's going to be a shaky one at the moment, because since all the other institutions, if we talk about the establishment, the Election Commission of Pakistan and the judiciary, Pakistani judiciary, they all seem to be on the same page. So even the claim of the PTI, we take it as it is, like it has 180 seats and been deprived of around 90 seats. Who gonna give it back to the PTI or Imran Khan? The judiciary doesn't look so at all, because it's on the other side of so in that scenario, there not gonna be immediate threat to this government. As far as the agitation is concerned, if PTI takes to road, already it had got sound thrashing at the hands of the authorities, the police and others. So in coming days, the government has already spoken up its mind, the caretaker as well as the new upcoming government, that we're not gonna spare those thinking of agitation. So such a scenario will last, I think, as long as you see the next change of command at the army. Everybody looks up to that thing. And another thing, if I may add more, that is, there is a talk here. Let's see what's going to happen in the US election in coming November. If Trump's gets back to the presidency, so difficulties of Imran may be over by then.
Very, very interesting. So, the politicians and the army in Pakistan are going to closely watch the US election to see who wins it. If Biden returns, well, then, things are not going to change for Imran Khan. But if Trump returns to power, that could be great news for Imran Khan. But Zulkarnain, I need to ask you one more important question before I go across to the other panelists. One sticking point or area of disagreement between the PML-N and the PPP was over whether the PPP would form the government. Bilawal kept saying, we don't have the mandate, therefore we do not want any cabinet portfolios, we will support this government from the outside, while
with it there wasn't any option, because staying aloof sitting in the on the opposition benches nobody gonna form the government in such a scenario. PTI backed independent do not have ample seats or enough seats to form the government. They needed at least one ally, like in the form of PPP or PML-N to form the government together. But it's been the PTI is saying, how come we shake hand with PPP or PML-N, especially PML-N, which has stolen our mandate, or our stolen mandate is given to PML-N, even if PML-N hasn't stolen. So only option PPP has with it, after being denied the premiership, to support the PML-N to form the government and continue supporting it, because in return it has with it now president office, you see chairman Senate office, 2 governorship, the most importantly Punjab governorship, KPK governorship. So I think enough in its plate now. In both ways, PPP continues supporting PML-N till last. One, because it has in return many coveted posts like constitutional posts, as well as they cannot refuse to support PML-N, since the powerful circles looking into its eyes. How dare you just do what we are saying to you?
They don't really have much of a choice there. Plus, they've got plenty of significant constitutional posts, including that of the President of India, of Pakistan, I beg your pardon, with Bilawal's father, Asif Ali Zardari, set to return as the president. All right, I need to take a quick break here on Global Lens, but we'll continue this conversation with our guests on the other side. Now remember, we are counting down to News9's Mega Global Summit. What India thinks today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will deliver the keynote address at the summit. The theme of the summit this year is how India is poised for the next big leap on the global stage. Stay tuned to watch this TV9 network initiative on the 25th and 26th of February.
From fragile 5 to top 5, from a laggard to a leader, India under Modi has reimagined the world order. Presenting the second edition of TV9, What India Thinks Today. Summit theme, India poised for the next big leap. Listen to Prime Minister Modi unveil his vision for Viksit Bharat at News9 Global Summit, a TV9 network initiative.
Welcome back. You're watching Global Lens on News9 Live with me, Neha Khanna, and we are discussing government formation in Pakistan. Let me now go across to Professor Sanjay Bharadwaj. Professor Bharadwaj, now we know that under the hawkish supervision of the Pakistan Army, a new government is finally going to take shape. Shehbaz Sharif, and not his brother as was expected, is set to return as Prime Minister. Asif Ali Zardari is going to be the next President of Pakistan. This is going to be a coalition government, but one that most people believe is not going to last very long. And then you have Imran Khan and the PTI calling the PML-N and the PPP mandate thieves. How do you think this scenario is likely to play out over the next few weeks and months? It's taken these parties 2 weeks to even arrive at this power sharing formula.
See, I have three points to say with you. One is, of course, Pakistan. They are looking forward to have a comparative political stability at present because there is a deep financial crisis and there are security crisis in Pakistan, and they are looking forward to deal it. And the political standoff has basically meshed with these two issues that could not delivered well. This is one thing. Second thing, like there are four stakeholders in entire scenario. One, of course, the three political parties, the PPP, the PML, and Tehreek-e-Insaf, and then of course the army is there. What army was looking forward, they got it. They got it. They wanted that not a single party form the government. There should be coalition, and while there is coalition, that the government will be always in pressure. So they got it, and now the coalition they have come out and to form the government. But very interesting point you have raised about that why Shehbaz Sharif, not Nawaz Sharif, because Nawaz Sharif had challenged the army before 2018. And because of he challenged the army and the establishment in Pakistan, the Pakistan army had gone with Imran Khan to replace Nawaz Sharif, convicted him in inappropriate property and all that. So they were apprehensive that if the Nawaz Sharif will come, then again the PML will be very powerful in Pakistan politics. But the point is here that why PPP has supported, why PML has compromised with the presidential post and the giving two assemblies, like one is Punjab and another is Pakhtun,
Khyber Pakhtunkhwa.
Yes, to PPP. The PPP is looking forward, since the president position would be with PPP and Zardari would be president, and tomorrow if there is any changes and any opportunities to manage Tehreek-e-Insaf independent members that they have contested, they have good number, 93 number in the parliament, and they will manage to get the supports, and Nawaz Sharif can give an opportunity to Bilawal to form the government. Zardari can give the opportunity to form from the government, Bilawal to form the government. So these kind of calculations, because finally the career of the political parties in future, like PPP will never will always conscious to that their political base should not be recede, and Tehreek-e-Insaf is also, they are looking forward, if they will be out of power and they will be nowhere, then they will not survive and the popularity of Imran Khan will decline. So there are possibilities that Imran Khan's Tehreek-e-Insaf and PPP can come together, because both the political parties, they find that PML is bigger enemy, a bigger rival, bigger challenge to both the parties' survival in Pakistan politics. So these are the scenarios that I'm looking forward. See, and this is the fundamental factor that PPP has supported the government from outside, not participating, becoming
Correct.
part of the cabinet. So these are the scenarios in that, and Balochistan, of course, that both the political parties, they are again forming the government in coalition. Now, how army will definitely play. It's a safe game. They are looking forward that to maintain the status quo. What is happening today, that let the coalition go and army takes the crucial decisions related to India, Kashmir, Afghanistan, Taliban, security, and they will have a weak government, and this weak government will operate with the China as well as with America through the army establishment. So this kind of arrangements they are looking forward, and they want to keep the army want to keep everything like
under its control. That's how it has always been in Pakistan. It is the army that has always called the shots. Even officially, it has ruled the country for more than half of its history. And when it has officially not been in power, it has been the power behind the throne. Yes, very quickly, Professor.
Let me add one more point. You know, in Pakistan, what happened, the army, Allah and Americans had been very, very active players to decide the destiny of the nation. But this time, in this election, Awam had so come
Awam too. And one more. Yes.
While the Tehreek-e-Insaf did not have election symbol, his leader was in jail, but
Yes.
they have voted to Tehreek-e-Insaf.
There is no doubt that this verdict has come as not just a huge boost for Imran Khan, who's emerged so much stronger. To be able to pull this off from behind bars is quite astounding, but many believe this is actually quite a snub to the Pakistan army, which had handpicked the PML-N and Nawaz Sharif to be the next Prime Minister, and yet you have a situation where the most seats have gone to independents backed by the PTI. It's another matter that they're not in a position to form the government. You said some very interesting things, Professor Bharadwaj. Let me take this to Ambassador Yogesh Gupta. Ambassador Gupta, Professor Bharadwaj, to my mind, has made some very interesting points. Number one, he says, whatever may have happened in the last 2 weeks, the army has finally got what it wanted. It wanted to keep Imran Khan's party out of power. It wanted a weak coalition government, not a single party government, so that it can continue to exercise complete control over that government and the affairs of Pakistan. And that is exactly what's going to happen. He also believes that perhaps the reason why Shehbaz Sharif is becoming Prime Minister and not Nawaz is because Nawaz had actually taken on the army last time around. Before Imran Khan became the Prime Minister, Shehbaz Sharif is seen as being more pliable. Do you agree with that? Because some are saying that Nawaz Sharif chose to stay away from the post of Prime Minister because he realized he did not have the mandate. Professor Bharadwaj also says that going forward, the PPP is likely to actually see the PML-N as a bigger enemy than the PTI. Therefore, do not rule out the PPP and the PTI coming together in the future. What's your take on these various arguments he's made?
Well, Neha, I agree with the first part of Professor Bharadwaj's assessment, which is that I think the army always preferred Shehbaz because Shehbaz is more pliable than Nawaz Sharif. And Shehbaz has the ability to keep everyone together. He is more humble, he is less opinionated, he is more flexible, and I think the army will find it easy to deal with him. And so I think there I agree with Professor Bharadwaj. But then I also agree with the first speaker from Pakistan, Mr. Zulkarnain, that I think this government is going to be relatively stable. I don't think it's going to be very unstable, no. Because there are 2-3 reasons for that. One is that Shehbaz Sharif has got the experience, he has got the mandate, he has got the support of the army, and he will like to continue. Also, the PPP and PML have realized that they don't have overwhelming support right now. Until this present army chief is there, he will not let Imran Khan come back. No way. Impossible. No, he will not allow that to happen. So I think this government is going to be fairly stable as other coalition governments in Pakistan have been in the past. So there I agree with the first speaker. I don't expect the possibility of Imran Khan coming together with PPP. No, I don't see that happening.
See that happening. Imran Khan, in fact, is on record as having said that we are not going to enter into an alliance with any of these parties. So far, of course, the scenario is very clear. His independents are not even in a position to form the government. What happens next once the PML-N and the PPP government does take shape? That remains a big question. I need to take another quick break here on Global Lens. Don't go anywhere. We'll continue this conversation on the other side. And let's remind you once again, we are counting down to the big event that News9 is organizing this coming weekend. The News9 Global Summit is about the new India that's recognized as a rising economic power and a major global player. The theme of the summit is how India is poised for the next big leap. The What India Thinks Today Summit is being organized by the TV9 Group, and this edition of the summit is unmissable because the keynote address will be delivered by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. What India Thinks Today Summit will be held on the 25th and 26th of February. Don't miss it.
how do you fulfill that promise? Because ultimately expectations have to be met. If you look at the political landscape, is it really changing for women? And what is the inability of the forces that dead bodies surface but not the living people?
From fragile 5 to top 5, from a laggard to a leader, India under Modi has reimagined the world order. Presenting the second edition of TV9, What India Thinks Today. Summit theme, India poised for the next big leap. Listen to Prime Minister Modi unveil his vision for Viksit Bharat at News9 Global Summit, a TV9 network initiative.
The football is mother of all games.
It is a team sport.
The leadership attitude is taking the ownership.
It's always a big responsibility to take decisions and the right decisions.
I always question the stereotypical.
And that's why you are in that position.
This and more. Streaming on News9 Plus. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
We are trying a lot of experiments, innovations and ideas.
We came out with a new format in audio, which is audio series.
Listening for content-oriented company in India, which is a very unique proposition.
When we look at audio in general, we had music, which is like extremely old format, and then we had podcasts.
A natural extension to Pocket FM is to move from Hindi to regional content. I think I'd love to see their FY24 numbers, which they claim will be close to 1,000 crores. I think there are talks of them to raise another $80 to $100 million of funding.
This and more. Streaming on News9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
वर्ष 2070 तक भारत नेट जीरो का लक्ष्य हासिल करेगा.
There's certainly a wall of capital coming into the clean tech, climate tech space, not just in India but across the world.
This and more, streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
Welcome back. You're watching Global Lens on News9 Live with me, Neha Khanna, and we are discussing government formation in Pakistan. Let me go back to my panel. Zulkarnain Tahir is with us from Pakistan. Zulkarnain, I wonder what your thoughts are on what Professor Bharadwaj and Ambassador Yogesh Gupta have said. They believe that the reason we're going to see Shehbaz Sharif as the Prime Minister and not Nawaz Sharif is primarily because the army sees Shehbaz Sharif as being more pliable, somebody easier to work with, rather than a Nawaz Sharif who, as we know last time around, had taken on the army. Do you believe that is the real story behind Shehbaz Sharif being picked as the Prime Minister? Or is it really because Nawaz truly believed that he had not won the mandate of the people?
Yeah, I totally agree to what my both respected panelists said about just saying it was the scheme of the things was like that because if we going by this PTI allegations, okay, their seat was stolen, but those who have stolen the seat, if they have stolen 90 seats, they could have stolen 120 seats. By stolen 120 seats, they could have easily given to PML-N, and then Nawaz Sharif might have come because he was already saying and claiming that I needed simple majority in the lower house, National Assembly, to form the government. So since it was a situation in which he found himself in where he knew the first thing that this mandate was questionable, if not stolen, it was questionable. Second thing is this: it's a coalition government. I have no free zone to roam around. It's better to call a quit, sit back home, train my daughter for Chief Minister slot, and he is happy to see his daughter in Punjab and say, okay, fine. The establishment, you have your Prince Charming, or you say your favorite boy Shehbaz with you, and you two together do the government. So that was the thing. Otherwise, if the mandate was stolen that way, it could have stolen in a more larger way. So I see now currently Shehbaz mandate will also be, that is of only one thing. Man, you got to fix the economy. You got to work hard to do these economic issues. Rest, you don't have mandate, like in the past 16 months in which he performed and headed PDM government after toppling Imran's government. His only mandate was even then to fix the economy, but he failed by that time, and now it's being expected that at least he could push the economy around so Pakistan may not default.
Okay, you know, when people say, why did the PML-N not get more seats if it had the backing of the Pakistan army, the joke that's been doing the rounds is that the rigging wasn't done properly. Forgive me for that joke, Zulkarnain, but I need to ask you this question before I take this back to the other panelists. You talked about the economic crisis. Now, you know, there are multiple crises that Pakistan is facing, whether it is on the security front with multiple terror attacks taking place in the last couple of years, whether it is all the political uncertainty that, you know, has existed for a very long time, with people losing trust in the political class and other institutions. But perhaps it would be safe to say that the economic crisis is the one that needs the most immediate and urgent attention of the next government, especially because the current, you know, IMF bailout program expires next month, and Pakistan will have to very soon begin negotiations for a new one, which also means that the incoming government and Prime Minister will need to take some very tough and unpopular decisions. Can you shed some light on that? You know, it's not going to be an easy task at all for Shehbaz Sharif.
Yes, you see, and reports are coming in that IMF seems to be reluctant to whatever happening in Pakistan with regard to February 8 elections. IMF has its own concern regarding its legitimacy. And you see, with this mandate, which has already been tagged as the stolen one, and the upcoming government of Shehbaz Sharif, having no such moral ground, it's not standing on such moral grounds, on that thing, you see, is on the lower ebb. It's gonna be tough to negotiate with the IMF, one thing, and later on, passing on that impact of even goes, finally negotiating some kind of agreement with IMF and passing on its impact to the public, a public which is already infurious and which is not happy because they haven't given them the mandate. So it's going to be a big challenge. And you see, and before even that, the government priority, apart from this economic thing, you know, is today is the 5th day in Pakistan we are without Twitter, and yes, fortunately we are still having internet, and I'm speaking to you by this. But you know why it happened? Because, you know, there's a lot of talk going on Twitter in Pakistan and about rigging. So the government found it the best to plug it off. The Twitter now no more working here. And other thing is this, today a 5-member high-powered committee is formed comprising the member of the ISI, the IB Intelligence Bureau, and they're gonna probe who making this controversy on the social media. So there are a lot more curbs coming on the dissenting voice. Media is already not free. So I think apart from economic thing, the other priority seems to be of the government or the upcoming government. That is how to curb the dissenting voice and how to keep everyone in their they're not in a position
and
to speak out on
perhaps we can expect another crackdown on the PTI, because they have been talking about agitating across the country, and it looks like the new government, again under orders from the army, is going to deal with them with an iron hand. Even in the run up to the elections, we saw a massive crackdown on the PTI, which made it virtually impossible for its candidates to even freely campaign before this election. Professor Sanjay Bharadwaj, let me ask you this. Now, everybody is well aware of the multiple challenges that Pakistan faces, like I said, whether it's on the security front or the political front, but perhaps the biggest crisis is on the economic front. The inflation, for example, that the people of Pakistan have been dealing with, the energy crisis, all of it is absolutely unprecedented. It has broken the back of the ordinary Pakistani. They're obviously all looking for some sort of relief on the one hand. On the other hand, you have the IMF, sort of cracking the whip and asking the regime in Pakistan to comply with its conditions if it expects another bailout package. This is going to be a very, very difficult challenge for the incoming government to deal with. And do you believe that they will need to take some very unpopular decisions? Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I do agree. While Shehbaz Sharif was Prime Minister before this election, he had also taken some decisions that were also very unpopular, particularly, removing the subsidies on export of oil and energy and all these issues. But my question is that, these taking the decisions and asking for bailout of IMF, it could not resolve, it could not, that Pakistan could not come out with the economic crisis. And, they need to open its trade, particularly I will indicate with India. How this government will allow, while this government is under the influence of army, because army doesn't want a smooth relations with India. So this is one of the challenge that this government will face unless until you will not have very cordial and very cooperative relations with India, that the economic crisis will continue. The second point is about the security, and security, they have two security threats. One is Tehreek-e-Taliban and another is the Afghan Taliban, Afghan refugees, that they are also challenging Pakistan's establishment in recent past. So how they will...
And let's not forget that very recently Iran carried out an airstrike on Pakistani territory.
Iran also, I was coming on that point, that Iran and the conflict between Pakistan and Iran, particularly on the terrorism, issue of terrorism and all that. And third crisis is about the environmental issues that is, Pakistan had faced flood, and then there are a number of other environmental challenges that Pakistan is facing. So how the government will come out, that would be a big challenge, while they are weak at home, while they are still having very strong influence of the army. But one point I would like to add about the rigging, that what I do find, army, I think army intervened to the extent that they wanted a hung parliament where the coalition government or weak government, they were looking forward, so that they can have better maneuvering, and this is one thing. The second thing is that PPP was, I think they were also liking Shehbaz Sharif instead of Nawaz Sharif into power, because they are more comfortable deal and negotiate with Shehbaz Sharif instead of Nawaz Sharif. So these are some of the issues that I think Shehbaz Sharif has come and become Prime Minister instead of Nawaz Sharif into that, because PPP is also thinking that always sitting on the back seat would not be good for their political career and their access to the people. So they will definitely try to make themselves more accessible to the people, and they will try to destabilize and try to apply their demands and policies through Shehbaz Sharif one, or destabilizing Shehbaz Sharif and cultivating possibilities with PTI, that PTI is independent member, because they are not bound to, they can manage it and they can get support, but because PTI is also feeling that there will be possibilities that they will lose their popularity after 3-4 years. So these things would definitely determine
We'll have to wait and see, what is in store for the PTI and for Imran Khan, who continues to be behind bars. But interestingly, Professor Sanjay Bharadwaj seems to be hinting that the army engaged in just the right amount of rigging, because they did not want a stronger Nawaz Sharif to emerge from this election with a full majority. So the outcome has been to the liking of the army, whether the people of Pakistan like it or not. Final word to you, Ambassador Yogesh Gupta. Professor Bharadwaj says that an IMF bailout alone will not be enough to get Pakistan out of the economic morass that it is in, and perhaps one viable solution would be to resume trade ties with India. But will the Pakistan army allow it is the million-dollar question. Now, even in the past, India, as you know, conferred the most preferred nation status on Pakistan. Pakistan never reciprocated. But in the last few years, relations on every front have been in deep freeze. Do you believe that for Pakistan's sake, the army may be willing to rethink some dimensions of this relationship?
Well, Neha, let me make a few points. First of all, I think that the United States is going to be much more favorably disposed to the Shehbaz Sharif government too than one, because number one, there is a little change in the United States relationship with China. The kind of hostility and the kind of adversarial relationship which they had last year. There is a change now. They are talking to each other. Various political and military groups are meeting between the Americans and the Chinese. And there have been high-level visits. There will be telephone calls at the highest level and so on. So the atmosphere is very different between the United States and China. So they don't think that now Pakistan is totally, since it is with China, therefore they should not help. Number two thing is that this is a great opportunity for the United States to get some sort of military base facilities in Pakistan for use against the ISIS elements in Afghanistan, and a possible deterioration of situation with Iran. Because right now, the hold of the military, Pakistan army is much stronger, the civilian government is weak, and Shehbaz Sharif will largely listen to what the army will tell him. So I think the Americans will definitely take advantage of this opportunity to expand and strengthen their base facilities in Pakistan, which they have been eyeing for a very long time. Now, the third point that you said about the trade with India, no, I am not hopeful at all, because I think this fellow Aslam Munir, the army chief, the present army chief,
he won't allow it.
He won't allow it. He has a more traditional perception of India than the previous army chief, who was much more favorable. And I think unless there is, they will insist that there is some movement on Kashmir, etc., before they can resume that sort of a relationship. So I don't think.
You don't expect any resumption of trade ties between India and Pakistan. Well, clearly Pakistan right now needs to focus on its economic crisis. On that note, Zulkarnain Tahir, Professor Sanjay Bharadwaj, Ambassador Yogesh Gupta, thank you so much for joining me on Global Lens tonight. All right, let's now turn our attention to the Israel-Hamas war. China has sharply criticized the United States for vetoing a United Nations Security Council resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Beijing said the move sent the wrong message and effectively gave a green light to the continued slaughter. The White House said the Algerian proposed resolution would jeopardize talks to end the war. The US has proposed its own temporary ceasefire resolution, which also warned Israel not to invade the city of Rafah. Algeria's resolution was backed by 13 of the 15 members of the UN Security Council, with the UK abstaining. Under the Security Council rules, any resolution that is vetoed by one of its 5 permanent members is immediately thrown out.
A draft resolution at the United Nations Security Council calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza was vetoed by the United States on Tuesday.
Those against?
It was the third such veto since the start of the Israel-Hamas war.
Abstentions?
Britain abstained, while the 13 other council members all voted in favor of the drafted text.
Proceeding with a vote today was wishful and irresponsible.
U.S. Ambassador to the UN Linda Thomas-Greenfield told the 15-member body that the draft resolution could jeopardize ongoing ceasefire talks between the U.S., Egypt, Israel, and Qatar.
We believe that the resolution on the table right now would, in fact, negatively impact those negotiations. Demanding an immediate, unconditional ceasefire without an agreement requiring Hamas to release the hostages will not bring about a durable peace. Instead, it could extend the fighting between Hamas and Israel.
According to text seen by Reuters, the U.S. has proposed a rival draft resolution calling for a temporary ceasefire, quote, as soon as practicable, and on the condition that all hostages are released. The blocked draft resolution, which was drawn up by Algeria, did not link a ceasefire to the release of hostages. Here's Algeria's UN ambassador.
Voting against it implies an endorsement of the brutal violence.
Israel's UN ambassador said the word ceasefire was being mentioned as if it was, quote, a magical solution.
What exactly will this silver bullet ceasefire achieve? A ceasefire achieves one thing and one thing only: the survival of Hamas.
Palestine's UN ambassador said blocking the Algerian drafted resolution 29,000 Palestinians.
The message given today to Israel with this veto is that it can continue to get away with murder.
Outside the UN headquarters in New York, protesters called on the U.S. to back the resolution. Washington traditionally shields Israel from UN action and has been averse to the word ceasefire in any resolution. But the draft resolution it proposed could signal a shift, as the U.S. text echoes language that President Joe Biden said he used last week in extensive talks with Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in which he pushed for a temporary ceasefire.
Algeria, by displaying reasoned sincerity and an open attitude, held lengthy and extensive consultations with all parties on the draft resolution and took on board many constructive ideas, making the draft resolution more balanced. The outcome of today's vote clearly shows that on the issue of a ceasefire to halt the fighting in Gaza, it is not that the Security Council does not have an overriding consensus, but rather it is the exercise of the veto by the United States that has stifled the Council consensus. The US veto sent a wrong message, pushing the situation in Gaza into a more dangerous one.
And as we wrap up this edition of Global Lens, our next story is from the United States, and this is one that may leave you quite surprised. In an unprecedented and first of its kind ruling, Alabama Supreme Court has ruled frozen embryos are children and those who destroy them can be held liable for wrongful death. A decision that puts back international focus the question of when life begins, and one that reproductive rights advocates say could have a chilling effect on infertility treatments and the hundreds of Alabamians who seek them each year. Critics say the ruling could have consequences nationally very soon, as other states could attempt to define embryos as people. Already one religious group is using the Alabama ruling as a precedent in a Florida abortion rights case. The Alabama ruling stems from 2 lawsuits filed by 3 sets of parents who underwent in vitro fertilization or IVF procedures to have babies and then opted to have the remaining embryos frozen. The parents allege in December 2020, a patient at the mobile hospital where the frozen embryos were being stored walked into the fertility clinic through an unsecured doorway and removed several embryos from the cryogenic nursery. That's what the state Supreme Court ruling said. The patient's hand was freeze burnt by the extremely low temperatures the embryos were stored in, and the patient dropped them on the floor, killing them, according to the ruling. Now, the parents sued for wrongful death, but a trial court dismissed their claims, finding the cryopreserved in vitro embryos involved in the case did not fit the definition of a person or child. But in a stunning reversal last week, the state Supreme Court disagreed, noting extrauterine children or unborn children located outside of a biological uterus at the time that they are killed are children, and they are covered under the state's wrongful death of a minor law. An attorney for one of the couples said the case is solely about accountability for the parents whose embryos were not kept safe by the clinic, and the state Supreme Court's ruling offers them a way forward for justice. Though the court's decision does not prohibit IVF, it is the first known case in which a US court says frozen embryos are human beings, and that could have a profound impact on how the fertility industry in Alabama operates. That's what critics are warning. They say it could send liability costs skyrocketing, making fertility treatment prices prohibitive for many families. It could discourage medical providers from performing infertility treatments in fear of being held liable each time an embryo does not turn into a successful pregnancy. And it could mean parents will now be forced to pay for lifelong storage fees of embryos that they will never be allowed to discard, even if they don't want any more children. No rational medical provider would continue to provide services for creating and maintaining frozen embryos, knowing that they must continue to maintain such frozen embryos forever or risk the penalty of a Wrongful Death Act claim. That is what one of the Alabama Supreme Court justices said in the only dissenting opinion that was expressed by this court. Quite a ruling that. Well, that's all the time we have on this edition of Global Lens. Thanks so much for watching. Do join us again at the same time tomorrow.
Start with the end in mind. You need to know where you want to reach. Every morning that we wake up, we are exercising our choice. The destiny is decided. The results are known that I'm going to win. Life of a goalkeeper is something which has always intrigued me.
When you come into a stadium, this is the highest level of pressure.
When I set out to do something, I decide in my mind that failure is not an option.
What you feel very strongly about, those are the stories to tell.
I have a mind which is absolutely restless.
Mind and body are entangled sensations.
That brings me back to golf. It's an amazing game.
This is not a perfect game. You only learn from them.
If you have a formula to a success, then you can replicate it.
I feel this is my first step. I'm starting now.
Winner is first born in the mind. I think, therefore I am. We are all about our mind.
This and more, streaming on News9 Plus. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
A defiant performance by Ten Hag's men. Now standing at 7 feet 4 inches, Satnam Singh is making his way into professional wrestling.
We are getting more good news for India.
Bangalore traffic is an example of something that has gone wrong with our system.
We have more than 50 flyovers in Bangalore city. If flyover is a solution to traffic problem, Bangalore should not have traffic problem.
According to TomTom Traffic Index 2022, Bangalore is ranked as the second worst city in the world when it comes to traffic.
The speed limit at the ORR is 80 kilometers per hour, but our vehicle has only moved 10 kilometers per hour.
What Bangalore needs is a surgery, but what we have been offered repeatedly are band-aids.
Only on the world's first news OTT. News9 Plus, ahead of the curve.
The football is mother of all games.
It is a team sport.
The leadership attitude is taking the ownership.
It's always a big responsibility to take decisions and the right decisions.
I always question the stereotypical.
And that's why you are in that position.
This and more, streaming on News9 Plus. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
We are trying a lot of experiments, innovations and ideas.
We came out with a new format in audio, which is audio series.
Listening for content-oriented company in India, which is a very unique proposition.
When you look at audio in general, we had music, which is like extremely old format, and then we had podcasts.
A natural extension to Pocket FM is to move from Hindi to regional content.